Hello everyone, Lytro Storm here, and today I'm going to be doing the finale of What If Goku Never Hit His Head. This one is going to be awesome, so if you're not caught up to it, be sure to do so now. The playlist link is in the description and comment section. For now, I'm just going to go ahead and recap the last part. So Beerus basically pulled up on Earth and fought Kakarot, leading to the Super Saiyan God fight. Frieza's revival was stopped by Piccolo, since he was the guardian of Earth and, was kind of protecting it. He was also training Goten, Trunks, and Cell in the background. The Universe 6 tournament happened with some differences, but nothing too much changed, and future Goten, Trunks, and Cell returned and gained the help of Kakarot and Vegeta to fight Kakarot Black. This led to Trunks and Goten unlocking Super Saiyan Rage, and Vegito making his first appearance, as well as Zamasu being erased by Zeno. And that's the recap of the last part, so before we start, as always, be sure to join my Discord and follow me on Twitter. Links in the description. So since we've already covered most of Super, all we're left with is the Tournament of Power. First is going to be the exhibition match, but since Gohan isn't a fighter and Buu isn't alive, we'd have to replace two fighters. I think we would replace them with Bardock and Cell, since Piccolo is going to stay to protect Earth. It would be cool to see the three Saiyans fight, especially since they're all, related. Cell is first to go up, fighting Basil, but since he lost to Majin Buu, she is easily gonna slap this guy in her base form. She's been training with everyone since the Buu arc, and it's heavily paid off. Bardock would be up against Lavender, and he'd end up poisoned like Gohan, but since he's way stronger than Gohan was, he'd be able to end the fight much quicker. Kakarot then slaps Bergamo even easier and has his brief fight with Toppo. He is told that he must find 10 fighters for the Tournament of Power, and so he heads off. Recruiting people would be easy at first. Himself, Raditz, Bardock, Piccolo, and Vegeta were half of the team already. He gets Krillin, Roshi, and Tenshinhan as well. That leaves 2 slots. The androids were killed, so they're not an option. Gohan hasn't trained at all in this series, so he's definitely not going to be joining. Yamcha has been training this whole time, so he's going to be included onto the team. Now we're left with 1 extra space, and Piccolo suggests bringing one of the kids. They've been training hard with him this whole time, so they're definitely prepared. But picking just one is a bit too difficult. This sparks an idea in Kakarot, and he asks the Supreme Kai if they could borrow their Potara earrings. The tournament will only be 48 minutes long, and the time limit for Potara was an hour, so this would work just about perfectly so long as they conserve their energy. Goten and Trunks would be the ones to fuse since they were both boys, and it would make things a lot less weird. Plus, they were the 2 strongest, so, fused together, they're gonna be the strongest. However, because of this, Cell was now saddened. She wanted to participate as well, and the boys were going to get a huge power-up without her. Bardock kneeled to her level, telling her that he will bring her in on the next one, but that's when he hears a no from behind. Roshi steps in and says that Cell will take his place. Yamcha responds that his skill is invaluable, however Roshi replies that he is well aware. He's going to take the remaining time they have to teach her everything he knows. Relatively speaking, of course. The girl wipes her tears and hugs the old master before leaving off to do her own training. In terms of power, our team is honestly pretty stacked. Kakarot is a lot stronger than in canon due to his much better training. I'd put his blue form at around the same level as his blue Kaioken times 20 in canon. That's how much stronger he's got. He's literally 20 times stronger. Vegeta, Raditz, and Bardock all have Super Saiyan Blue and are stronger than Vegeta was in canon, but not by a wide margin. Piccolo is insanely powerful, easily the strongest on the team since his training has been a lot better, and he has the ultimate form. Krillin is really strong, even more than he was in canon since he's been training with Yamcha. I don't want to go too in depth as I have a video planned on Krillin's power, but just know that he's stronger than Kakarot's base by a lot. Yamcha is a good bit below that, but using the Kaioken would make him way above Krillin. I'm not going to say what multiplier he has since then I'd have to go in detail about my formula and all the scaling, so I'm just going to say that he is using way above times 20, like a lot more. But as for Tenshinhan, he's going to be a good bit stronger than he was originally, but that's not really saying much. Goten and Trunks' Potara Fusion, or as we'll call him, Trunten, using his Super Saiyan 2 form is above that of Goku's in the show. This is due to Goten and Trunks having trained with Piccolo, and we saw how strong Gohan got, so the kids when fused being this strong shouldn't be that surprising. Cell in Super Saiyan 2 is still really strong, but she isn't quite as strong as base Goku in canon. Luckily, she now has the Mafaba and Thundershock Surprise, so those should come in handy. And with that, we've got our team. we'll now be diving straight into the actual tournament, and most of our squad is going to stick together at the beginning, with Vegeta and Kakarot going off to fight Universe 9. They were able to slap them even easier, resulting in a swift universe elimination. Krillin and Yamcha fight off against Shosa and Majora from Universe 4 rather than 18 and Krillin. And this would be a much quicker fight since Krillin is a lot stronger, meaning that Frost doesn't get the chance to off-guard Krillin. Trunten decides to separate from the squad, going off to fight Caulifla. It would be funny to see a little kid teach her about the Super Saiyan grades, just like I did in my Super Saiyan grade multipliers video, which you should definitely check out, it's really fire. And basically, he would just be slapping her up since he's incredibly powerful. By the way, we're going to say that Trunten has the same personality as Gotenks for simplicity's sake, so yeah, that's cool. Anyway, the kid eventually gets bored of just fighting Caulifla and asks if Kale can do anything. He fights her, but she isn't strong enough to strike back. Seeing this, the boy calls her a complete pushover, and Kale would rage out from not being useful to Caulifla. This causes her to go Super Saiyan Berserk and charge at Trunten, who manages to dodge the attack, but another one comes, and Kale just keeps on getting stronger. She eventually overpowers him, forcing Jiren to step in and one-shot her away, and the Fusion would then thank the strong dude for the save before, running off. Bardock and Raditz proceed to fight the Pride Troopers instead of the androids, and would easily slap all of them in Super Saiyan form. Vegeta, Krillin, and Yamcha take on the Kamikaze Fireballs, beating all of them quickly and knocking them out of the ring. Meanwhile, Piccolo is taking on the same guys he and Gohan fought originally, so Botamo, Rubal, Abani, etc. He's just knocking them all out of the ring solo. Dispo and Hit have their brief scuffle, with Kakarot also stepping in to help as well, and that leads to the demise of Kunchi. For the Universe 4 fighters, Cella would be their opponent. She'd be taking them out in pure power rather than having to use techniques like Roshi did. Frost later arrives to fight her, and would force the girl to use Super Saiyan 2. This would be a fairly close matchup, but I think Frost would be winning here. Once she's weakened by a bit, he goes on to beat her down more before preparing to eliminate her. However, this is quickly stopped by Bardock. He proceeds to absolutely batter Frost for hurting his daughter, and then would toss him out of the ring when he's done beating him up. He then gives the girl a little bit of his energy to bring her to full strength and tell her to be safe. Luckily, she goes on to help Tenshinhan defeat the Precho and Hermila, using the Thundershock Surprise to hold them in place for him. This saves him from elimination and makes Bardock really proud. Around that time, we'd see Trunten going place to place and basically just saucing on all the fodder opponents, until he eventually meets Caulifla and Kale once again. And like before, he would easily smack them up, until Kale unlocks her regular Super Saiyan during this. But even then, Trunten is still slapping that easily. This pushes her into Berserk mode, but she's able to control it. She starts to charge in, but Trunten says that he's prepared something for this fight before charging up a ton of energy. The boy begins powering up, with his hair growing longer and his eyebrows being removed. Once the transformation is complete, he then poses and says that he calls this Super Saiyan 3. This is the first time the form would be appearing in the series, as nobody ever went to Otherworld to unlock it. Luckily, Gotenks did in canon, so I think a much stronger fusion of the two prodigies would be able to achieve it as well. And so he uses this to combat the girls for a while, managing to equal out to both of them at the same time. However, he eventually runs out of energy and loses the form, because he was not at all used to it. Luckily though, Raditz arrives with the save and easily slams the two down in order to let Trunten escape. Now that that is over with, we can move on to the first major fight with Jiren. Kakarot approaches and cycles through his form, slowly pushing the warrior more and more. Without the Spirit Bomb, I think we'd see more of a typical beam struggle, with Kakarot unleashing more power as they clash. This ends up in Jiren's favor though, obliterating the Saiyan. However, he was still alive, and now had awakened Ultra Instinct Omen. With this power, he makes Jiren try more than he did previously, but still gets beaten as he did in canon. Hit decides to step up next, but since Kakarot was a lot stronger than he was in canon, Jiren would have been using a lot more power. This means that Hit would be absolutely done for way quicker than originally. Raditz finds his brother on the ground and gives him some energy, asking what that power was. Kakarot would say that he had no clue, but he needed to bring it back, as that would be the only way to beat Jiren. Piccolo goes on to defeat Saunel and Purina at the same time, and would eliminate both quickly to save his universe. Now Kakarot would begin to fight against Caulifla, and that whole fight is going to play out the same. However, Kakarot isn't ever going to be pushed to Super Saiyan God. At least not by the two of them separately. Instead, Kale and Caulifla would fuse using the Potara, and would force him to use the form then. The two then ascend to Super Saiyan and then Blue, and begin fighting on par with each other. Eventually, we would see Ultra Instinct make its return, and the Saiyan would eliminate the fusion easier since his base is a lot stronger. As for the rest of the squad, they're off taking down multiple universes. Tenshinhan and Sella are fighting against Universe 4's remaining warriors like Daemon, Shansa, and Gamisaurus, and using their skills, they're able to eliminate the three and only lose Tenshinhan in the process. Which, by the way, he would be the first elimination of Universe 7, almost halfway through the tournament. They're doing amazing here. At the same time, Trunten is back handling the three remaining fighters from Universe 2. Even once they get their maiden forms, Trunten is still going to be holding his own in base form. But since this was a close fight, he would end up trapped in their bubble attack. To break out, he powers up and uses Super Saiyan 3 to eliminate all three of them very quickly. The boy then quickly reverts to base as to not lower his time being fused. If they did defuse, they'd be 2 people instead of 1, so it's their thought that they'd most likely be disqualified. And lastly, the rest of the gang would have been fighting Universe 3's robots a lot sooner. Because we've got Piccolo, Vegeta, Bardock, Raditz, Krillin, and Yamcha all doing that, they'd easily end up dealing with them. But Anilazo would still be formed, leading to Krillin and Yamcha being taken out. The rest of the squad easily overpowers Anilaza, since they're all stronger than our original crew who were able to hold their own against him. The blast cracks the Fusion's crystal, and then Trunten and Sella both charge in to rapid attack him off the ring while he's winded. So now we've got the 3 main Pride Troopers versus Piccolo, Kakarot, Vegeta, Bardock, Raditz, Trunten, and Sella. However, the latter 2 are leagues behind everyone else, so their elimination is inevitable. The way these fights are going to break up is Kakarot and Vegeta versus Jiren, Piccolo and Raditz versus Toppo, and Bardock and Trunten and Sella versus Dispo. Now Bardock will be watching over this fight to conserve his own energy, as he knows the kids won't be useful against Toppo and Jiren, so he might as well let them fight while they can. But here, since Dispo's actually playing around, the 2 are going to be able to hold him off for a while. Trunten would use Super Saiyan 3 to combat the Pride Trooper, while Sella uses techniques she learned from Roshi, such as the Thundershock Surprise. She uses this to restrain Dispo, while Trunten sends in some Super Ghost Kamikazes. Once Dispo stops messing around as much, she'd try using the Mafaba, but he would dodge due to his way higher speed, leading to her collapsing to the ground. She learned 2 techniques in that short span of time, so there are going to be drawbacks since she hasn't perfected them. Bardock, seeing this, would make sure she's okay, but this would only lead to Dispo charging in. He tries off-guarding both at the same time, but Trunten manages to barely restrain him with a Galactic Donut. After the donut explodes, Dispo uses his full power to smack the Fusion out of the ring in one shot, and then tries to blitz both Bardock and Sella. This succeeds, but Bardock manages to break out using Super Saiyan Blue. Dispo smiles, unleashing his Super Maximum Light Speed mode and attacking the Saiyan. Bardock is able to react to and counter Dispo's attacks, which makes the Pride Trooper very angry. He knows he's got to do all he can to not force Jiren and Toppo to fight all these guys, and so he turns his attention to Sella. Dispo raises his hand to attack Bardock, making him go for a counter, but he then blindsides Bardock and lands a punch on his daughter. She goes flying, but the Saiyan just barely manages to jump off the ground and barely catch her. He then sets her injured body onto the ground and then begins powering up. This anger actually ends up pushing him into the Blue Evolution form, which he uses to easily dispatch Dispo out of the ring. He then reverts back to base and walks back over to Sella, asking if she's okay. She barely says yes and smiles, but Bardock knows that it's time. He tells her that she did great before carrying her and dropping her off the edge. The girl reappears on the bench, where she is healed by a Senzu Bean. At the same time, Trunten would defuse, and the 2 boys would tell her that she did awesome. Sella giggles and remarks that next time she wants to be the one to try fusion. Back to the tournament, at the same time as Dispo's fight, Piccolo would have been slapping the crap out of Toppo. Remember that Toppo was said to be equal to Blue Kaioken Goku, and Piccolo is way above that level because he's the strongest on the team. An L of that magnitude pushed Toppo to use the God of Destruction form, in which he easily caught the dub against Piccolo. Even with the help of Raditz, they're not going to be able to do much, and I think that this would actually lead to Raditz being pummeled until Piccolo starts blasting Toppo to attract his attention. Raditz is now in a critical state and gets dropped onto the ground, and Jiren at this point would toss Vegeta over to Toppo like he did in canon. The Saiyan had already unlocked Blue Evolution, and so now he'd be able to defeat Toppo the same way, while Piccolo and Raditz recover. Bardock meets up with Kakarot to continue fighting Jiren in his Blue Evolution form, and so they'd stand a bit of a better chance while the others are away. That is until Vegeta arrives once more, a bit injured, but still strong enough to fight. At this point, the other warriors could recover some of their energy, but no one would last that long against Jiren. Because of this, we'd see everyone on the ground except for Piccolo and Raditz. They would have to defend the others, but Piccolo knows that they can't last forever, and so he would tell Raditz that he needed to go. I may be stronger than you now, but you Saiyans gain power like nobody else. Now go, get them out of here. Raditz follows Piccolo's words, grabbing the 3 Saiyans and throwing them off to a safe distance away before following himself. Piccolo is unable to hold back Jiren's massive blast forever, and so he powers up and begins creating a yellow field around himself. He then screams out, detonating all of his power. Kakarot yells out Piccolo's name as the dust settles, leaving nobody there. Jiren now begins waiting for the next challenge, and so Vegeta steps up. However, a hand is placed in front of him. This is Bardock, and he tells him to stay back. He'll go in to let them all build up more power, and then they can all take turns afterward. Raditz gives his father the remainder of his energy, and he charges in using Super Saiyan. However, of course, this isn't going to do anything to Jiren at all, and he only ends up getting eliminated, though he does last a little bit longer than Vegeta did in canon. Speaking of which, Vegeta is next up doing the same, but finishing by giving Kakarot his energy. Since Raditz just recently gave up all his energy to Bardock, our main Saiyan is going to be the only one left, and so he uses the power he's built up to charge in at Jiren in Super Saiyan Blue. However, like in the show, this isn't really going to do too much. Luckily, he does manage to achieve Ultra Instinct Omen and later gets the full version, so using this power he would easily beat up Jiren and nearly eliminate him. But the strain of the form is too much, and he collapses. Luckily, Raditz is there to defend him, and Piccolo makes his return. If Vegeta and 17 can self-detonate and survive, Piccolo should be able to as well. And so, Kakarot's 2 brothers stand strong and fight valiantly against the final warrior. They're able to hold him off, but can't really best him, unlike Frieza and 17. So once Toppo's speech comes in, Jiren would just begin slapping both of them once again. However, thankfully, Kakarot arrives just in the nick of time to save them. He thanks the 2 for protecting him, and the 3 brothers end this, with all 3 doing the final charge. But at the end, Piccolo jumps off of Jiren and stretches his arm to catch the edge of the arena at the last second. Universe 11 is now erased, and Piccolo makes the wish to undo that along with all the other universes. After the tournament, we'd see a nice moment with our gang. Raditz says that he wishes he could have gotten a cool power-up like everybody else, and Yamcha says that he'd be willing to teach him his Kaioken. Maybe he could do something with that. The Saiyan agrees to this, and Bardock goes back to his family to spend some time with them. Goten and Trunks are both psyched to train more so that they can be even stronger, and so they leave with Piccolo. For the Broly movie, Berry Blue is the leader of the Frieza Force, so she tries finding new recruits. Of course, Chilai and Lemo find Broly and Paragus, and Berry Blue brings him to Earth, as summoning Shenron would get the attention of Kakarot and Vegeta, so they needed a fighter. Broly makes his attack and ends up getting beaten since he can't go Super Saiyan if Frieza doesn't kill Paragus. So with that, we'd see Kakarot trying to make the 2 Saiyans reform, and returning back to Vampa. And since we aren't going to be covering the Super manga, as I don't in any What If, that is going to be the end of our series. This one has been one of my favorite ones to write, and is what I consider to be my best series overall. Every part was really unique and fun to me, and I honestly hope the new movie has lots of stuff and is followed by the anime's return, because I'd love to continue writing this series and seeing what would change there. But anyways guys, I hope you all enjoyed watching, and be sure to tell me your favorite part of this video, and your favorite part of the series overall. But as always, tell me if you liked this part, comment your requests for future videos, and subscribe. Thank you for watching, have a great day.